Okay.
We're live. It's Monday. J.K. Rowling's in the news again. Brandon will be here in a minute. There's stuff going on. Reddit is melting down. I'm Bananity. We did get a patron over the weekend, and I said I would put the banana suit on any stream immediately after we get a patron. So here I am. We keep our promises on this show.
I can't remember our new patron's name, but thank you because you brought Bananity back, our favorite character.
And of course, I always make some special appearances in the banana suit when I think it's really funny. But yeah, so I don't know. I think there's so much to talk about today. There was a lot of news over the weekend. There's been a lot of news today. It's a crazy Monday. Iran's talking about arresting Trump. Did you see this?
Yeah. So you can check the threat of war with Iran twice in 6 months off of your 2020 bingo.
Yes, if you had that on your 2020 bingo card, threat of war with Iran part 2 has now arrived. Iran is talking about, there's an arrest warrant out for Trump, and they're seeking help from Interpol. I mean, honestly, as far as I'm concerned, what Trump did was outside of the law. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not mad, but I am concerned about like the possibility of escalating tensions between the two countries, because obviously the odds that we would just hand Trump over cleanly and let him be arrested by a foreign nation and tried over there is very low, considering that like we don't do that. America does not like hand people over for foreign trial very readily. It's one of the things that like we continually push back on. It's like, this is something that we should have like the absolute authority over, or whatever. Is like, we are good and no one can question it. And if you think that America is not good, you're wrong. And you cannot treat Americans as if they're doing bad things because we're the good guys. And
Right.
like that's like our like international diplomacy in these situations most of the time. So like obviously like we're not just gonna be like, yes, try our president. Even the people like who right now, like Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Barack Obama, would like come out and be like, no, they can't try our president in Iran. You know what I mean? Like people that just like absolutely spend all day doing nothing but dunking on the president. The fucking grifters like the Krasenstein bros would be like, no, you can't send our president to Iran for trial. That's crazy. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, obviously he's not going anywhere. Like it's the only thing that this is doing is like making the threat of war like increasingly bigger for every day that this keeps going or whatever. And like I don't know, it's just it's all bad.
Yeah. I mean, I think again, like I don't think Iran's in the wrong to do it at this point.
Oh
Like
yeah, of
what
course.
the
But
killing
like
of Soleimani was completely ridiculous. The whole thing was a ridiculous action in terms of like
yeah.
just not even remotely really like legal or justified in
I mean,
any way.
it's
Us
not
as
like what Iran's doing. It's the way that we're going to respond to
right,
this. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
That's all I'm
So
trying to say. It's like, yeah, I think like it's ridiculous that we're in this situation, but yeah, like
yeah.
I don't know. Like I say, we don't hand over leaders or even just people. There's that like diplomat or whatever who like hit that kid in the UK, and we just extradited the shit out of her back to America. We were like, you cannot try her for anything. Go fuck yourself. Like, you remember that story? That's still like a
I
really
don't.
big deal. That's actually like a thing that they're having a lot of political tension about over there, because it's like a whole thing. Unfortunately, I don't remember the names of the people involved very well, but um, uh, yeah, like this. I think she was a diplomat, or she's like an envoy to a diplomat, or some crap, or whatever. And
Right.
like, she literally hit and killed this teenager in the UK and was like probably drunk when she did it. But like as soon as she got to the jail, she was like, I want to talk to the embassy. You know, I'm important. I'm American diplomatic, whatever. And like we just like got her out of there. And
Yeah.
the UK has been like, we would kind of like to hold trial, and we're like, no. And they're like, we're like allies, and we're like, go fuck yourself.
It's literally like, actually, I'm American, so I can get away with stuff. You seem to have forgotten that. It's like if we're not gonna, if like we're pulling that shit for a case
It's
like that, like obviously nothing's happening to the fucking president. Like,
literally qualified immunity, but
yeah, but
on an international scale. Because qualified immunity is literally if you've never been in trouble for something before, you can't get in trouble for it now or in the future, right? So
right,
like that's literally like the policy that like we kind of like have in the international community towards incidents like this is like we've never been held accountable before, and we will never be held accountable because we've never been held accountable before.
yeah. I can't think of anything more stupid than that. I really can't.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Although I can think of stupider things like J.K. Rowling.
Oh, right.
That's stupider. Let's talk about some stuff that's stupider than possible war with Iran. Let's talk about some stupid shit.
So serious topics aside.
Yeah.
um,
5 minutes of serious talk. Now we're done.
Now we're done.
Now it's a comedy show.
So yeah, J.K. Rowling being an absolute clown on Twitter.hell, made more transphobic tweets, and then Stephen King was like, he retweeted one of them because it was about like supporting.
It wasn't really like the tweet retweet. He
like misunderstood, and it because it was about like supporting women over men, or like something about like silencing women's voices.
Right,
I don't remember. I didn't see the tweet. I don't remember. But like, then she was like, "Oh, Stephen King is so great. Like, love him." And then Stephen King tweeted, "Trans women are women," and then she deleted her tweet in praise of him and blocked him. So,
I mean, there's
real clown hours.
Like we talked about J.K. Rowling like last week or the week before. I can't remember when exactly. And like I just thought it would be funny to follow up on this a little bit because like it just gets it gets so clowny. It gets clownier by the second around here. With like J.K. Rowling just like tweeting like hanging out with like the worst people on Twitter suddenly, you know, like the Jordan Peterson crowd, you know, is like suddenly who she's hanging out with, and like she blocked Stephen King because he tweeted trans women are women, not even like at her or anything. It was like a reply to another tweet, and she's just like so obsessed with this whole thing that like she went and found that and was like, oh, never mind. I hate Stephen King now. The whole thing has become like rapidly pathological, and the really disturbing part is that she's tweeting support for stuff like conversion therapy. So like it's mask off now, folks. Like whatever you thought about like, oh, maybe she's just like a little bit of like a knucklehead or what? No. It's bad.
Yeah,
it's bad. But you know, there have been some wins on the front of gender theory / gender critical was in the massive pile of subreddits that right was in the massive pile of subreddits that was banned,
right, along with Chapo and r/Donald.
That's right. Cumtown was banned. A lot of racist subs were banned.
Yeah, I don't remember.
It's a long list.
Yeah.
But I think this will probably be one of the main things that we talk about today because like this has a lot of implications. I just want to start off. I think this is like a big one for me. I just want to say first of all that like do not equivocate about like both sides with anyone on this shit. Chapo may be like have had a lot of problems as a subreddit. We are openly critical of like Chapo Trap House in many respects. We're not like against them per se, but like we do offer criticism of like what we call like Chapo brain sometimes, or like just kind of
Yeah.
like some parts of like sort of ironic leftist thinking that we don't think are so healthy or good. Um, so like we're critical of Chapo in many respects, and like we don't think like I don't think like oh Chapo Trap House was this perfect subreddit where nothing bad ever happened or anything. I think it was like a stupid shithole in a lot of ways, but it was also like our shithole, and it was it was funny, and you could like read good shit there and like get a little informed, and like, and the thing is like what sucks today is a lot of people are kind of like, well, if we have to lose Chapo to get rid of the Donald, I guess it's a fair trade. It's not a fair trade. One of these subs like bred fascism and like did targeted harassment against like just random minorities and shit like that and all kinds of terrible things. The other one is Chapo Trap House and was just like some fucking dumbass shit, like people posting John Brown memes and like just like edgy humor shit. These things are not equivalent. Edgy leftist humor is not equivalent to actual white national terrorism. Like it's just frustrating for people to be saying that again. Like I don't think that much of Chapo. I literally have spent this entire preamble explaining that. But like, yeah.
I mean, I have never actually listened to Chapo. I don't care enough to do that, and I'm not a Reddit person, so I don't really care about Chapo's subreddit being deleted. But what I did see was I don't remember who posted this take on Twitter, but I saw someone being like, "Oh, like conservatives like always say that the government should not regulate speech, that like the company itself should do that." And like Reddit self-regulated this, but people are still complaining about it. It's like, oh, you only want them to regulate leftist speech. Like
Right.
when they're regulating conservative speech or literal white nationalism, like that's targeted harassment or whatever. It's like, no, like they're regulating speech on their own platform and that's what you support. So maybe support it all the time. Like be consistent.
Like that whole thing about how like there's two genders, male and political. There's two sexualities, straight and political. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the one of like the pervasive influences that the right wing has had on themselves and on other people, and a lot of other people buy into this, whether they're neolibs or even people that are to the left of that, or definitely a lot of moderates, right? Like moderate conservatives, things like that. Not that there's a ton of those left, but there's still a handful out there, and they buy into this too. That like these things are normal and don't need to be questioned, and that they're not quote unquote political, right? Like,
Right.
and this is like this really like
Like that
dives
whole
into
traditional values shit.
right. This really dives into the whole realm of just like the straight white male viewpoint having been accepted as rational. And like this is you see this all the time in like when billionaires are talking or when politicians are talking. Donald Trump does it all the time. Donald Trump thinks that his straight white male viewpoint is literally like if he hasn't heard of it, the thing doesn't exist. Like so like
Exactly.
so like that straight white male viewpoint, like being thinking of it as being rational, has been so ingrained into conservatives and so many Americans in general that like yeah, now we're in this whole situation where like uh again like these conservatives like they literally unironically are doing what Ren is saying and they don't see a problem with it because again like they don't see everything about their worldview and what's comfortable for them they see as just the normal way of things, and that everything outside of that is weird and some kind of adjustment Not that like everything is just like somebody's particular lifestyle or a set of circumstances or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you know, it's I mean, we say this a lot, but it just like highlights that hypocrisy of like you only value something when it benefits you, and then when it doesn't, you just like abandon it. You never care about it.
Yeah, he's like, you ever have a cat that like you open the door, it's raining outside, and they're like, oh, that sucks, and you close the door, and then like 30 seconds later, they're like, will you open the door and let me see if it's what's going on outside? And you're like, you just looked, it was raining, and they're like, maybe it'll be different this time. Like that's Trump. That's object impermanence. Um, Trump's like, could we open the door again and see if it's still raining? You're like, we just checked.
We just
We
checked.
just checked. Can you chill for a minute? We just checked.
Also that like that gif of the baby where like they're in like a thing, and then the like toy pops up and they go, that one.
Right.
You know that one? Yeah.
Yeah. You spook for the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
That, but it's Antifa and Trump. Antifa.
It's not even Antifa all the time. It's like Nancy Pelosi or Joe Biden.
I know,
like does that to him.
It's a completely ephemeral concept that they could just apply to anything. If you own two bicycles, you're Antifa. If you've ever owned a beard product, you're Antifa. Yeah, I mean that's exactly.
No, stop it. I want out. I want out.
God, why? Why do you do this to us? That's so horrible.
It's so really bad. It's really good and really bad.
Yeah, I will say this though. Nothing has given me more confidence that Donald Trump might lose in November than Reddit banning the Donald. Because corporations do things that that benefit them, you know? Like
right.
They Reddit has proven over and over again that like they will not ban a highly money making community until they absolutely basically feel like they have to or there's no money left in it. I don't think they felt like they suddenly had to today. Like the pressure's been on them. People have been telling them to ban the Donald for 4 years.
Right.
You know, like
even longer.
And yeah, and I mean like the heat was way hotter at times than it is now. Like people have mostly given up on things like that. Like they're not doing it now because suddenly you know, they suddenly give a shit about the Donald. It's 100% like they must have decided that the money is no longer there, and that makes me wonder if Donald Trump is maybe a little bit screwed in 2020. Like I haven't had a lot of confidence in Donald Trump losing in general or Joe Biden winning. But I have talked about like over the last few weeks, like why like some of the current circumstances have like thrown a wrench into like an otherwise like unlosable election, in my opinion. So
yeah, I don't know if I think that Reddit is going to be the one deciding the election, but we'll see.
I'm not very good at Trump voice, but it would be like very, very bigly Nancy-fa coming after me. I just want to grill. I'm Donald Trump.
I don't want to give him any ideas because if I know he's not going to see this, but let's say if he tweets Nancy-fa in the next few days, like
he's gonna tweet Nancy-fa tomorrow, and we're gonna be like, "What the fuck?"
that has a lot of horrifying implications. I don't want to think about that.
Donald Trump is an avid viewer. He's a patron. No, I'm just kidding.
Maybe Donald Trump is our newest patron and wanted to get you to wear the bananas. Donald Trump, if you're watching this,
so wrong.
Thanks for your patronage.
Why is the world so wrong? I just don't know sometimes. I am overall glad that the Donald was banned, I guess, but it just seems also kind of worthless at this point. Like they should have done something about it a long time ago if they wanted it to actually have an impact.
Like too little, too late, honestly.
Right. And then the whole equivocating both sides shit of also banning Chapo at the same time is just such bullshit. Because, like I say, edgy leftist humor is not the same as breeding actual dangerous fascism.
Right.
It's just not. And like we could make an argument about when that line gets crossed in terms of like when does edgy humor become something more problematic. But like in general, on the day to day, Chapo Trap House was just people posting dumb shit. Like it wasn't like anyone actually like causing any problems. These people are not out there burning shit down. At least 90% of the time, maybe occasionally. But that's 2020 is a wild year. What can I say?
Right. Was there any other news besides that? I don't even know what's happening today.
I don't know. I wish Brandon had showed up by now. I was hoping he would be here by now because I know he had some takes on these subjects. But unfortunately, Brandon unexpectedly became the chair of Metro Atlanta DSA over the weekend. For those of you who didn't know, and he's a little pressed.
We're very proud of him, but he's very busy.
Very pressed.
That's a hot take.
Yeah, I mean, how much has like the should the Donald stay or go controversy like drawn attention to Reddit? Exactly. Yeah, like I said in the description of this broadcast, if everyone could please go make a really popular Reddit dedicated to our show and get it banned, we could really use the publicity that everybody's getting from this right now. I've never had more of my friends mention or ask about Cumtown, which I hate. So that's been like the low light of my day so far.
I mean, honestly, it's kind of criminal that we don't have a subreddit in the first place.
We actually do have a subreddit. It's just really small and inactive.
Oh, okay. Well,
but it has existed for a long time.
It's criminal that our subreddit is small and inactive in that case.
Props to the people that started that, because it wasn't us. We didn't have to do that. It was very cool.
Yeah, I think I read something about that.
Yeah, I mean, this is I did. Cumtown is like the worst podcast that's ever existed. I hate it. Unfortunately, I've had multiple people tell me that it like made them leftist, which I hate even more.
So sad. Brandon, are you here?
Did Brandon arrive?
I just hear clicking from Brandon.
I am here. I just got off. I'm sorry. I got off a very lengthy phone call with the founder of my chapter of DSA, Milt Tambor, and I love him very much. But he is a senior citizen. He's an older gentleman. And a phone call that seems to be like a 5-minute phone call just becomes like a 30-minute phone call because he, he's retired. He likes to speak to the new generation of leadership in his chapter. So I got off positive, and I'm very positive. And y'all can see that I'm hot, but nothing else is new.
We were just talking about the Reddit bans. Is where we were at right now.
So rest in peace, Chapo Trap House. You radicalized a lot of weirdos, and most of them were good. Most of them tried to do the right thing. Some of them were complete shitheads, but any kind of mass movement or mass group.
R.I.P. Brandon.
Had him for a solid minute.
He thought he was giving a eulogy to Chapo Trap House, but now we're giving a eulogy to Brandon, I guess. Yeah, I will agree that, like, you know, Chapo Trap House, the subreddit especially, less so than the show, or more so than the show even in some ways, which is kind of funny, did radicalize a lot of people I know.
The show hates the subreddit. They don't associate with them at all, and whenever there's an opportunity to dunk on the subreddit, the show takes it.
They'll probably have some kind of like celebration, right?
They probably will make fun of them in the next Chapo episode. They don't support the subreddit at all. But if you were a member of the subreddit, it was a good snapshot of leftist Twitter discourse and dunks. So even if you didn't fully like Chapo, you probably found some use in the subreddit as just a content aggregation, you know?
Totally. Yeah, it was pretty scrollable just as a place to just kind of dive through and get like a lot of kind of news and general thought, like you say, from like people on the left, just like what's kind of important to us right now. And like, you know, whenever something like, you know, the coup in Bolivia was going down, you knew that you could go to Chapo right away and just like get some information that wasn't like just complete mainstream media horse shit.
Yes.
Right? Like
the Donald also got. Have y'all talked about Trump getting the Donald getting the X or not?
A little bit, yeah. And I was just saying a minute ago how like nothing has given me more confidence that Donald Trump might lose than Reddit no longer believing it's profitable to keep that community around.
That is said so correctly. The Donald sucks and continues to suck, but it would have been not whatever their reason for giving them the chop now should have also been a reason to give them the chop 4 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
So they really let them ride for free because there's no ads on the Donald. They literally let them ride for free for 3 or 4 years, depending on how you count the quarantine as riding. Sucks. And Gender Critical also got the chop. Just a lot of the weird, trashy political subreddits. Reddit has now done their liberal both sides bullshit with. You know, whatever.
And of course, they already banned a lot of the hardcore left-wing subreddits a long time ago, which is part of why this is frustrating, you know, that they're just now kind of coming around to banning these right-wing spaces. Is they already banned all of the hardcore left-wing spaces a long time ago, and everyone had to either mellow it down a lot or just get the axe.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, that seems right.
Yeah. Reddit used to have some pretty wild left-wing communities.
Full communism was a big community. Mm-hmm. I don't remember all of I'm not a super hardcore Redditor.
Shouts out to Full Communism. That was right before I quit Redditing. I used to hang out there, and that helped radicalize me.
Is Shit Reddit Says still going?
I think so, yeah.
God bless. God bless. Love them.
Subreddit drama is still around. The only important subreddit.
Shit Reddit Says is just basically quarantine themselves just by being irrelevant. I don't know if it's still there was so much shit that Reddit said it became pointless and redundant to even have that as a thing. Shit Reddit
won't stop Reddit. Yes, it's Reddit. Yeah. Reddit won't stop saying shit. You could literally just repost every post that's on any subreddit besides Shit Reddit Says.
Well,
Shit Reddit Says.
Especially the default ones. Now you can find if you've got a niche on Reddit, it's probably fine. If you've never been to Reddit, if you have a niche hobby or a TV show or something that you like, Reddit is great at doing that and also filtering conversations so that the best comments are to the top. But if you go to a big Reddit, once it becomes a default Reddit, it just goes right into the dumpster and it's just complete trash. So niche Reddit is cool, but default Reddit is not with it. It's not the way to go. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how much we want to get into this, but like Reddit in general, even niche Reddit, suffers from the problem that like it has this inherently like kind of almost like like exceptionalism or almost like manifest destiny type attitude towards the creation of subreddits, and like there's no democracy whatsoever, and subreddits just get ruined all the time by the fact that like the person who created them is a shitter, and like you just can't do anything about it. It's like
Yes.
very ridiculous.
Basically, you have to start your own. You have to like start your own competing, like true shit Reddit says or whatever it is, and it has to be like better and start from 0 subscribers and you'll get there. But that doesn't happen unless the original is a complete trash fire. So it is what it is.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. I don't like Reddit very much, so I don't even know. Like, my general take here is that like they should have banned all these right-wing subreddits years ago, and that like honestly Reddit can just go fuck themselves for also banning Chapo in the process. Cumtown's fine though; you can get rid of that.
Is the Cumtown Reddit like Cumtown? I've only seen.
It's banned now.
Well, okay. I've only listened to one episode of Cumtown. So
Really bad, yeah.
well,
Yeah, the subreddit was awful. It's very, very bad.
I grew up on 90s FM radio, so none of Cumtown just seems like
it is just shock jock stuff, but
yes,
it's
90s FM radio with the F word, which I mean it's fine, but like I was over that in middle school. It's weird that I'm not offended by it. It's more like weird to me that people listen to it, but I also like understand it because it's a format where you get in for an hour and you just intentionally try to be funny. And to me, that's like trying hard, but I understand the appeal of it basically. So if you are a Cumtown, like I don't care. But
I care.
Yeah, definitely not for me. Yeah, Cumtown is like your number one entertainment bugaboo.
No,
like,
actually, no. My number one is Pod Save America.
Oh yeah, you're right. All right. So, if I mention Pod Save or Cumtown, you a generally chill, mellow person, right? As seen by you wearing a banana suit for an hour because someone gave $25 to the show. But that is something that can create the rage of a quiet man, as mentioning the word "come" and "town." So,
or Pod Save.
Yeah.
Which I will also fly off the handle about at any moment. Or Jimmy Dore. I love the shit on Jimmy Dore. Don't forget that.
Michael Tracy, there are a lot of bad things. Hey, Ren, what is your number one bad left or quasi-left or liberal podcast, entertainment source? You know, is it?
I don't even listen to anything.
The best possible take, Ren. We love you.
Ren only listens to unedited clips of this.
I don't even listen to our podcast. Like
by the time
I edit it,
it's finished. Like chopping this show into something listenable. No desire to participate in any pod discourse. Red Scare. Who is Amy Therese? Ren does not know.
I do not see it.
I do not see it. Yeah. Oh, I wish that we could like for our podcast, we will like come up with the title of the episode just in the episode. Like this episode would be Amy Therese. I do not see it.
I know, right? With the streams, we have to make it up the title in advance. It's really hard because we never know really what we're going to talk about.
Right.
Like, so half the time, like, even if we prep topics really carefully, half the time, like, somebody will just, like, rock in who didn't even, like, come to, like, the pre-stream meeting, but shows up, like, right at the last minute, like, hey, we're going to talk about this crazy thing.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Andrea would just come in with cocaine on her face, having just played Spyro the Dragon for PlayStation 1. But we're going to talk about Spyro, okay? All right.
We're going to talk about Spyro and intersectionality.
Right. Exactly. That's another great episode title.
I know. I mean, the something that is truly criminal is that, like, as I'm editing episode 100, which I've been doing for the past few weeks, like, I keep thinking of like good episode titles for each of the segments as but I'll never get to do that because it's just going to be called like episode 100, whatever y'all want to call it. It's like useless.
Ren, write those down and we'll make a Patreon only
Well,
post.
now I've forgotten them, so it doesn't matter.
Fired.
Great. I'm unionizing with Lau, actually, so
you don't need a union.
You don't need a union. We support unions. We support unions.
Our viewers, I just want to let you know that Kennedy and Brandon keep me locked in my room, and they make me edit 23.
Ren, I love being a member of Not Stay So Long, the podcast for the people. I don't.
Y'all forgot I can unmute myself.
Oh, God damn it! I don't need a union.
Why did we give Ren so many powers?
Why
does Ren have control over everything?
Disaster. This is literally why we have to stop the uprising. The people apparently have power. This isn't fair. It sucks.
Who would have thought y'all would be anti-union?
We're not anti-union. We love unions.
It sucks.
We love unions.
But you don't need one
in this workplace.
And they just get in the way of good relationships between bosses and the people that they own. I mean, workers. I mean,
right.
What am I trying to say?
But anyway, yeah, when I listen to the podcast, because I actually do listen to the pod, because I'm not listening for my own voice. I'm obviously listening for Ren. Like, I want to like see the Ren edits and compare it to my memories and things like that. And it's 90% of the time better. As a writer, I'm always upset when I'm edited in any way. I'm incredibly touchy about everything I say is absolute fucking gold to myself. But I like listening to it. So when I listen to episode 100, I'll write down the clever titles and make a Patreon post and be like, here's what we could have titled the episode 100. That'll be cute.
By the way, just for the record, for all of you out there watching, we're a co-op. The union busting thing is a joke.
That is an extremely long run. There's only like 12 people. It's not a lot.
I know, but I figure a lot of the people watching don't necessarily know our long-running inside jokes about Ren and Lau forming a union and me busting it nonstop.
I wonder if you're Ren, how pissed off are you that Rachel just got to like get full status while you've been here like slaving away? What's the point? Internship? It's terrible.
I mean, I don't care because I'm not good at being a host. Like, even on stream, I am terrible as like a on-screen or on-air personality. So I don't care that Rachel is in ahead of me. However, this episode 100 shit, y'all viewers need to know that Kennedy and Brandon and Rachel have just been showing up to record stuff, and I've been like planning and scheduling all the guests. So like, I need y'all to know that I'm doing 90% of the work here.
Episode 1 is literally the Ren episode.
And I'm not even in it.
In fact, that will probably be the title, the Ren episode. They're not even in it.
I actually am in it for about 30 seconds during Lauren Ashcraft's segment, and I talk about Animal Crossing, and then I leave.
I feel like one thing about Animal Crossing with Lauren
and
Ashcraft.
then and then I'm not in the rest of it, so. Actually, Flo Girl, I think I should go. No, I'm just kidding.
Take that off. No, there's a great relationship, Flo Girl, and you're not going to. Flo Girl. Friend of the show, Flo Girl. Thin Ice. Buster.
Yeah, Lau and I are going on general strike, so if you want to support our strike, you can go to patreon.com/notsafe and donate to us.
I just always figure on it, real talk. I always figured that people wouldn't find it interesting at all for us to talk about like the actual like ethics of leftist business or like the things that we try to do.
That's very interesting, in my opinion.
But I don't know. Maybe if people want to hear about like our actual philosophies about like operating as a co-op, like the importance of like direct democracy in the workplace, Just like
yeah,
things.
I mean, all jokes aside, like I actually don't
This is a
care
fun
about
joke, but
forming a union. Like,
I kind of want to talk about just like the like like the ethics of labor a little bit right now, especially because this will be a convenient segue to like one other topic I wanted to get into in a minute. But
Is
anyway,
the topic
yeah.
the merch store or something else?
no, the topic is sanitation workers.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So let's
Yeah.
talk about podcast ethics. None of us get paid.
Correct.
No.
We,
We
I mean,
literally,
like,
here's how we use the. I'm gonna be totally transparent because we don't do this often enough. Maybe here's how we use the Patreon money. We use it on podcast expenses, of which there are a lot. We spend like usually around like $100 a month making this show. I'm not kidding.
yeah,
And we're all broke as shit. So like we're literally like we're scraping 2 nickels together to make the show. You know,
correct.
like so that's number one where podcast or Patreon money goes. The second place the Patreon money goes is it goes to like sometimes we've used it like for like emergencies. Like we bought Leia a bed because she literally did not have a bed because she was disowned by her parents and like living in someone's living room, and she literally did not have a bed to sleep on, and we bought her a bed with Patreon money.
Yeah,
That's what the money goes to.
I think that I was like I was stranded downtown once and got like a sandwich and a lift from the Patreon. Like, it was very like we're talking like our monthly Patreon is like $30 to $40, some like
It's
generally.
actually
But
$69.
Yeah, we just hit 69.
it's
So
higher now.
nice.
It's higher now. Right. By the way, nice.
Nice.
Nice. But we're getting there, which is really cool. We're like that $125 a month patron. Like suddenly, we're all banana soup money. That's right.
Oh.
For people who are new viewers,
Stop clicking it.
every time we get a new patron, it's a banana day. So,
Yeah.
is there a minimum patron number? What was $1 enough to banana?
Enough.
$1 will make it a banana day, and Kennedy will wear the banana.
Wear the banana suit.
Yep. Or maybe we'll get some other costumes if this goes on enough.
Yeah, if we get over a certain amount of money,
Patreon money, I'll go buy a fucking another. This is like a $15, $20 costume, I think. I don't know. You know, I'll buy something. But anyway, part of the reason I want to talk about our actual labor ethics for just a moment.
Oh yeah, sorry that I distracted from that serious conversation to shitpost.
No, it's okay. Is because like, first of all, I just want to say like, labor issues are really important. We talk about them a lot on the show, and I think all too often there's a lot of creators who talk about this stuff but don't stand behind it. Not that like no one does. Our friends over at Street Fight Radio pay every single person that works on that show a minimum $20 an hour. Just in case you ever wondered where your money goes, if you like are a patron of Street Fight or like you have ever bought Street Fight merch or anything like that. And of course, like they're one of the OGs. We love them. Brian is a dear friend of the show. Like, some people put their money where their mouth is, and we like to let y'all know that we are those people because all too often, like, there's this presumption that like, people are getting a good deal and they're not. And to segue a little bit, I think one of the cases that's been most true in America is sanitation workers. There's an assumption a lot of times that your average sanitation worker is like probably getting like an okay take home. Like they're probably not like rich or, even necessarily quote unquote middle class, but like they're not struggling, is like the general perception that most people have that like a sanitation worker makes like an okay, salary, gets some benefits, could probably raise a small family without like completely just dying. That's not true at all. And really, well, it varies a lot is the bigger issue too. But sanitation work in general, like the protections and wages, benefits, etc., have all been eroded steadily for a long time. This has been done by removing elected officials and replacing them with appointed officials within like the realm of city sanitation. This has been done by getting rid of unions. This has been done by many, many means. And so now we've reached the point where sanitation workers in New Orleans, a great article came out today about this. Sanitation workers in New Orleans are making less than minimum wage with no benefits. And this is during the time of COVID. This is like they are literally being a sanitation worker is far riskier than being a cop. And like
Absolutely.
when people talk like this is during normal times. During COVID times, it's dangerous. It's even more dangerous. It's so dangerous. Okay. And when people talk about, I think it's funny when people talk about, oh, who are you, if we didn't have the police, who are you going to call if you're robbed or whatever? That's like something that happens to you maybe like a couple times in your life or whatever. Garbage is something that's happening to you every day. Like we talk about who should be getting some value in our society, like where we should be putting our priorities. Like, fuck worrying about who you're going to call when like somebody fucking steals your wallet. Who are you going to call when you got trash coming out your damn ears? Sanitation workers are way more important than any fucking cop, and we're treating them like absolute like trash. It's ridiculous. It's just so infuriating to see these people doing this dangerous job that, again, like, y'all think you couldn't live without the police. You can't go a day without the garbage people. Let me tell you something. You're going to be very sorry. It's ridiculous. And like when we talk about worker protections being eroded, like nowhere has it been more just completely deplorable, in my opinion, than when it comes to sanitation workers, where these used to be relatively good paying jobs that you could have like a lower middle class existence off of a sanitation worker's income. You would have benefits, you could raise a family, you had health care, and now, like in so many cities across America, it's just not the case at all.
Right. I mean, imagine like you are endangering these people and you don't give them health care. Like, what are you going to do when all of your sanitation workers get sick and we're back to like the 1920s and there's poop in the streets? Like,
Does that sound fun to anyone?
No, absolutely not. And that's kind of the reality if you, especially now when there's a literal pandemic and all of your sanitation workers could potentially get sick and they don't have health care. And if they die, that's kind of on you, the city, right? So,
yeah. It's very ridiculous. And, the fact that departments like this just keep getting their funding slashed year after year while the cops gobble up more and more, all based on these fears of what might happen if blank, blank, blank. I'm pretty worried about what happens if we lose our basic social services, people. I'm a lot more worried about that than like getting mugged once in my life or something, like these things that happen. I've actually been robbed a few times, but like I'm a lot more worried about these services going away. And like this shit that's going on with the sanitation workers in New Orleans is despicable. And it's just indicative of this entire like completely corrupt and inhumane system that says, oh, be afraid of your neighbors and your friends and things like that because you don't know which one of them might be a murderer, instead of worrying about real shit that's happening to you all the time that like our like city services and social services are designed to counteract. It's completely insane.
Yeah. And these same cities, like not just New Orleans, but everywhere pretty much, are either keeping their police budgets or adding to them. And I mean, I was talking about this a lot yesterday. It's not to do with sanitation workers, but in New York City, de Blasio refuses to cut the police budget, and he's cutting like education funding for CUNY's ASAP program. And ASAP is, I forget what it stands for, but it's like it helps low-income students. And so, and in New York City, that obviously means it's not helping low-income Black and brown people, and because the population's way higher there. And so like de Blasio is basically saying, oh, we're going to fund the police and keep you all stupid and use that to our advantage so that you can not know what is your rights, like what your rights are, and you can't fight back because we're denying you the right to an education. And it's really bad. And fuck de Blasio and fuck the cops.
Fuck de Blasio. Fuck the cops.
Fuck de Blasio and fuck the cops is another great episode title. We just have the wit and wisdom of Ren is really amazing. You're welcome. ADQ was one of the first cities to take military gear. It's still a hub of mugging and car theft.
Yeah, because people are broke. It doesn't matter how many guns the cops have. People are the same amount of broke, regardless of whether the cops are rolling in on a pony covered in flowers or they're rolling in a tank. Like,
this is the future the left wants. The police have ponies covered in flowers. Disgusting. This is why these white boomers are just getting strapped and just going out in the yard and just acting wild, because y'all are trying to break down the fabrics of society, attack God, dethrone him, all that stuff.
For the record, I've only been the target of a robbery type situation once in Albuquerque, because I like to set, I always like to push it against the perception of how bad this place is a little bit. I've only been robbed once in Albuquerque. They broke into my car. I'm putting quotes around it because they did not damage my car. I left it unlocked. It was my fault in that regard. And they took the change out of the cup holder and some blunt wrappers that I had in the console, and they didn't take anything else. And it was actually kind of sad, if I'm being honest. like you just, when you look at that and that's what was stolen from you, you feel bad for the person who took that shit. Let me tell you something. Like, you don't feel like, wow, I really want to. I mean, maybe some people do, because some people are just fucking inhumane as hell. But I didn't feel like, wow, I want to go kick this person's ass. I felt like, wow, this is like, people here are struggling if somebody's willing to like sneak into my car for this shit.
Yeah, that happened in my neighborhood too. One night we like woke up and there were cops like all over the street in the morning, and my dad, I was like, what happened? And my dad told me that like people had broken into cars, like not broken in, just like opened unlocked cars, because in my neighborhood people keep their cars unlocked, and just stolen change out of the cup holders. And my dad's car was broken into, but mine wasn't, because I keep it locked and my dad doesn't. And it's like, and he was like, he wasn't even feeling bad for those people. He wanted like revenge or whatever. I'm like, I'm sorry that you feel so upset that someone took like $1.25 from you, but clearly they need it more than you, because it was just sitting in your car. And if they're that desperate, they won't even break into somebody else's car. They're just opening unlocked cars. That is your fault. And
like literally, the person who's doing that, like they're clearly trying, like they're trying as hard as they can to not do a bad thing. You know what I mean? Like,
right, exactly. If they wouldn't break into a locked car,
and, you know what I mean? Like, but like somebody like that, it's like they literally are just like, oh God, please, can anything get me out of the situation that I'm in or whatever, you know? So it's very ridiculous. And Flo Girl, I know you're just doing the rivalry, and don't worry, I feel every stereotype about how I'm supposed to feel about you Santa Feans, believe me.
I didn't even know there were interstate New Mexico rivalries.
Oh,
that's one of the goofiest things I've ever heard.
I didn't even know there was a second city in New Mexico.
We have
New York with the elbow drop. Oh my God.
Oh damn. We have a joke here in Albuquerque. If somebody is a vegan and they're also from Santa Fe, how do they decide which to tell you first?
Ooh.
Ren is like, I don't even know what these inside jokes. That's even worse. You have rivalries and inside jokes. I thought you were just the place near California, but not quite. What's
No, yeah, New Mexico. We really give each other a hard time between the cities. Of course, Santa Fe and Albuquerque, we have a more friendly rivalry that we'll set down in 1 second in order to shit on Las Cruces, because that's the worst place.
A third city?
That's right.
Do y'all have college football over there? Is that like a thing that y'all are into?
Yeah, that's part of where this comes from.
Okay.
Especially the Cruces Albuquerque.
Yeah, because we have Georgia versus Georgia Tech here, and that's like a thing. I'm in Georgia Tech territory. I think I just rooted for the Bulldogs when I was like a little kid because like I like the uniforms better. So I didn't really have any allegiance to. But then I just became a UGA fan. And that was just what I was. And also, Tech Tech's always been terrible at football. Unfortunately, they're sorry. They're a bunch of nerds. They're not good at sports. God bless them.
Bringing up Yola or Grants or places like that's just unfair. Everybody just turns the dunk machine on at that point.
Ren, can you please talk about like some cool New York things? Like our show is dying a death. Our viewership, as soon as they started talking about New Mexico, the viewership just cratered. Ratings are through the floor.
I don't
Ren, talk about pizza. What kind of pizza? Yeah, don't y'all eat pizza in New York?
Oh, yes, and I mean, I personally don't really care. I mean, I care a little bit as someone who is from New York, but New York people really are defensive about pizza to anywhere else. It's not real pizza.
I've had
doesn't
New York
count.
No, well, listen. So I've had New York pizza. New York style pizza is obviously the greatest pizza in the world. It's better than anything that's ever made. And I've had some actual New York pizza. Chicago pizza is awful. It's garbage.
That's not real pizza. That's just like
casserole. Yeah, it's
what
not
is
even
that?
I don't know what it is.
I don't know her.
Chicago pizza. I don't know.
I don't know.
Atlanta has
pizza is just an excuse to just eat an entire pound of bread for no reason.
Pack it in, Chicago. You're just disgusting. Atlanta has one or two pizza places that stand up in our elite pizza places. We're not like an elite pizza city, but Verasano's and Fellini's holding it down. Big salute to both of those joints.
I mean, I'm sure that there are some big cities that make like New York style pizza that's kind of comparable, but it's really not. It's just not.
You can take Verasano's up against Patsy's, and Verasano's will go blow for blow with Patsy. That's all I'm gonna say. That could be a whole different episode.
All right, let's just wrap this up. We're just
pizza fight.
Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. We actually do have to go. We have to record something with Shanyat Chowdhury for episode 100 in just a few minutes. Shanyat is, of course, amazing. Love him, and we don't want to keep him waiting. So we're gonna have to go so we can be on time for that. But we appreciate y'all so much for watching as always. Y'all are amazing. We'll be back tomorrow at 4 Eastern and every day this week at 4 Eastern with another stream. We should have a podcast episode coming out today, assuming I just stop being a shit. But I've had a headache for like 2 days. So I don't know. We'll see.
Stan Bananity, New Mexico is 10x better than New York.
Just inaccurate. Just inaccurate.
Yeah.
I will fight you any day.
5 feet of fury. Anyway, we're out of here. Bye, y'all.
We're out of here.